You ask about the meaning of the term, the fear of God, which is spoken of in the Bible. You may be sure that that word fear is not used in the typical way we understand it. For instance, in Proverbs we read, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge," or "The fear of the Lord is hatred of evil." In Job we find, "Behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to turn away from evil is understanding." So we find that fear is a form of knowledge. It is an awe. It is a consciousness of the reality and presence of God, who is so infinitely beyond us in nature that we can only be in that state of wonder, that state of amazement. It's been called by theologians and mystics the mysterium tremendum, both mystery and awe at what it is. It is a sensation of the immensity and the sacredness and the purity of that which we call God. In fact, in Isaiah we read, "Fear not, for I am with you," the words spoken through the prophet by the divine. "I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." In Psalms, "Let all the earth fear the Lord, let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him." So it is a state of consciousness of how small we are in the presence of this sacred goodness, this source of our being. So it is twofold, both the awareness of this holiness and the awareness of our nothingness compared to it. In 1 John we read, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love." Meaning that if we know the reality of God, there cannot be this fear, because it is a relationship of love. It is an awareness of being loved unconditionally and responding to that experience, to that forgiveness, to that redemption. We love him because he first loved us. And so when we read in Luke, "And his mercy is for those who fear him from generation to generation." His mercy, a strange combination of words. You can see how that could so easily be replaced with, "His mercy is for those who know him from generation to generation." Again in Proverbs, "The fear of the Lord leads to life, and whoever has it rests satisfied. He will not be visited by harm." And then those great words in 2 Timothy, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." Therefore, it is an entirely different meaning. God does not seek to have us fear him, fear of punishment, living in this state of guilt in relationship to the infinitely pure, fear of what will happen to us after the end of this mortal life, but rather ecstasy, as we see in the great mystics, as we see in Rumi, this dance of joy in the experience of God, this warming of the heart, this flow of tears, even the gift of tears, as the ancients speak of it, that comes from the tenderness of this relationship, to be loved beyond all measure, more than any human being can love, to be accepted, understood, healed by this love. This is what is contained in that phrase. The letter to the Romans tells us, "For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, as children, by whom we cry, Abba, Father." This then is the relationship to be developed with God, so often twisted by false theologies, by the fundamentalist focus on the negative, hell and damnation, as they say, which is completely foreign to a true experience of the presence of God, of the nature of God. In Psalms we read, "Come, O children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord." So it is a strangely positive use of that word that calls us to be vigilant and present to that reality, to return to its remembrance, to recognize that when we are distracted from it, lose sight of it, we lose sight of life itself, of the source of our joy and peace and illumination. In the Middle Ages, the idea of God became so distant, so anthropomorphized as a figure up in the sky, that this intimate relationship was lost sight of. To some extent, the same can be said for the figure of Jesus. And this is why Mary was brought forth as expression of the divine tenderness, of the divine care. So we must be certain not to let assumptions and associations handed down to us through the generations prejudice or color our sense of encounter with God. It must be our own experience, which comes to us in those precious moments of contemplating beauty, of the peace that passes all understanding, of the sense of support and inspiration, a direct experience that reveals to us what this relationship really is.